Some businesses succeed, some don't. Then there are those that seem to have been around forever. The true entrepreneurial success story. How did they do it? What was their vision? What makes a success? In this special episode for Eye on Annapolis, we speak with the true success stories, those business owners that have been around for decades, learn from their successes and failures. Now, here's host John Fernay.
We're here with Teresa Williams, who is the owner of the Gateway Florist here in Annapolis, right on 914. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did, John.
Look at that. Bay Ridge Road. I get the roads and the avenues confused.
If you go to Avenue, you're at the firehouse.
Okay, there's a good mnemonic for me. Now, Gateway Florist has been around for
40 years.
40 years.
Right.
Now, and I'm guessing that you weren't always the owner because you probably didn't buy that when you were like 3.
Or negative. No, I'm the fourth owner. It originally opened on West Street in 1979.
Where on West Street did it open up?
I'm not 100% sure of the location, but it was named Gateway because it was on the edge of the historic district. So it was called the Gateway to the historic district.
Okay, so I'm guessing it was probably metropolitan area, kind of where Metropolitan is now.
Right.
You moved over to, well, when I first moved down here, you guys were a chicken store.
Right.
You were the Chesapeake Chicken down there on the very end.
Right. We still have their cooler. It's been exactly 20 years on West Street and then moved 20 years ago down to Bay Ridge.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you guys are, I've got to say, at one point there were probably 2 preeminent florists in town.
Correct.
Yourself and James, Flowers by James, I would say.
Right.
And you may disagree with me, but they're no longer on State Circle. But you guys are one of the last of the locally owned, homegrown florists.
Yes, and it's a dying art.
I will tell you that I won't be so presumptuous to say that I'm one of your best customers, but I do use you guys exclusively. And the stuff you put out is amazing.
Thank you.
You get it right, and I know I've got a graphic designer that I work with. It's funny that I will tell her, I'll say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of. And she gets it spot on every time, unless it's maybe a shade off. Maybe this needs to be a little darker or lighter or something like that. And you guys are very similar to that. It's like, I need flowers to cheer up my girlfriend because she's got this, or there's a medical issue or a death in the family or something along those lines, and you guys nail it every single time. I will say that you guys also are very cognizant of being a local business. I am that customer that would call in at like 1:30 in the afternoon and say, so what are the chances of getting a delivery out to Riva by this afternoon?
And she'll only be there till 3.
And when everybody's done laughing, they pay.
No, the customers, we pride ourselves in our repeat customer business. We pride ourselves in getting to know our customers. Our designers love when they've gotten a style or what someone expects when they walk in the door.
You've got to have the greatest place in the world to walk into in the morning. It's a very fresh smelling, better than coffee, I think, wafting through a house.
Most days. Yeah, 99.9% of our days are happy.
Well, that's, you are in a happy business, with the exception of probably at funerals, and you're a little bit removed from that to a point. But it's, and it's great. You've got stuff that, you've got gifts, too, that
right.
Which I guess is sort of a necessity. I think probably back in the 1800s or so, florists were just flowers.
Right.
And you just sort of had to morph onto that, and then I guess Teleflora or FTD or whatever the services are that come out.
Right. There's the wire services that are out.
Yeah, and you needed to be able to deliver flowers locally from somebody in Hawaii that was sending them to.
Right. We do keep our wire services for that purpose for our current customer base.
Right. How does that work? I know when I go to like FTD or Teleflora, it's got like the stock flower arrangements. Mm-hmm. Can you guys actually just recreate that? We
recreate it to a point. The pictures you'll see on Teleflora, FTD, all the other wire services, they're single-sided. And people will wonder, well, it doesn't look the same as the picture because we've used those flowers that we've been told in a recipe to use, and it doesn't look the same. So we take a little designer license and we emphasize on it and we oomph it. We prefer to do designer choice. We prefer you to call and say, you like ABC. Well, why did you like ABC, John? Oh, I liked the way this looked or this looked. Well, let us use that as our base
so it could
to
be
create.
The shape or the color.
Or the colors or where you're going to put it.
Or the specific flower.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You mentioned designers. So are there actually floral designers, or is this
There are floral designers.
Are you a floral designer?
I am not.
Okay.
They won't let me touch them.
Is that a smart thing or not?
Very smart. No, I have great designers. I have two always there designers and a handful of on call.
Now, are they when they're designing something? I mean, are they thinking up something like, hey, we're going to call this the Teresa bouquet or whatever it may be, and do that, or is it an individual type of?
It's an individual. We don't like things to go out looking cookie cutter. And that's one reason we don't like the wire services, because we don't want everything looking the same. If you order something and you go to dinner at someone's house and you both have ordered the same thing, we don't want you to walk in and think it came out of a copy machine.
I guess it's like walking into a party in the same dress or something.
Right. Yeah, it's a no-no. The only thing we can't avoid is roses.
Sure. That's absolutely true. What? Now you've grown a little bit, which is interesting. I know, and I was surprised when I was in there not too long ago to tell me that you also own one of my favorite buildings in Annapolis ever. It's not the most large building in town.
No, it's not the prettiest, but it is.
I disagree with you there. I think it is the prettiest. I think it's a very cool building. But the one right there on College Avenue and one
King George and College, yeah. Probably about 3 months after I purchased Gateway, I found out that the owner down there decided she was ready to retire. Well, I'm a sucker, so I said it's got to stay a flower shop.
Sure.
Approached her and bought that business, but renamed that Academy Flowers since we're a stone's throw from the Naval Academy.
Right. You could throw a bouquet over the wall and and be there.
Yeah, and I think the biggest probably inquiry we have down there is people will walk in and ask where the Naval Academy is.
It's a neat little store. It's a neat little building, right on the corner. I don't know what the history behind the building is. I imagine it's got some.
It used to be a gas station.
Okay, that makes sense because you've got the little cutout in front for probably where the pumps were.
Right. It used to be a gas station. The owner of the building opened the Mercedes-Benz dealer, and he had customers that said, well, we need to get gas in town. Hence, he made a gas station.
Huh. Okay, so it was probably Benson, I think.
It was Mr. Benson, who just recently passed away.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's sad to hear. Yeah. So, I mean, what out of the other store? What do you do out of there? I mean,
we service a lot of walk-ins. It's probably one of the few places in town you can actually park and go into the store.
True.
Midshipmen that are able to escape from the yard and want to get flowers. We're a sponsor.
Got to impress those town girls.
That's right.
And town boys.
That's right. We sponsor NAAA, so we're able to give back to the Academy.
Okay, and NAAA is Naval Academy Athletic Association?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And
so you guys are one of the approved vendors?
NABSD vendors.
Okay. And that's a fairly significant thing for any business in Annapolis. I mean, it's to be approved there because, I mean, the Naval Academy is such a big generator of pretty much everything. I mean, I know that yes. Papa John's, I know they order from Papa John's Pizza several times a year, and he's like, okay, we've got an order for 3,500 pizzas that need to be there in 30 minutes. It's like, right. Shoot me now. And I know your neighbor down, a few doors down from you, Main and Market.
Yes.
Which I have a difficult time with the new name still.
So does everybody.
But they're one of the approved caterers that are down there as
right.
well. What is the bulk of your business in the flower business? Is it the walk-in, the people that are looking just to brighten up? Is it a corporate thing, or is it obviously weddings and?
It's probably very equal to events, what we call dailies, birthday flowers, guys getting screwed up flowers, anniversaries. And then events would encompass weddings, alumni parties, and then there we do have some standing accounts.
Right. What's the most extravagant thing you've created or done or event or?
I think the most fun, I'll use the one we had the most fun with, was last week. We were asked to do flowers for the new superintendent for the Veterans Classic. So we got basketballs and we elevated them throughout the house on various vases and made a big arrangement for the center of the birthday
basketball
table.
Very fun.
Yeah, we said, we're going to, just have fun with it.
That's nice. So I imagine that's a designer's dream.
Oh, it was.
when they come out and say, The only thing that can make it better is we don't have a budget. Or we have an unlimited budget, right?
That would be the dream.
It's like the architect's dream. I want to build a house. What's your budget? I don't have one. Yes. Okay, let's move on.
We wish.
But are you from Annapolis originally?
No, I'm born and bred Maryland. I grew up in Howard County.
Okay, so what brought you here?
Just changing life. Just time for a change to do something different.
Now, you weren't in the floral business before you got here,
No.
I'm presuming, because you would have been a floral designer if you were.
I raised my daughter, and then I went to school to get to get certified in event planning, and this was just a good segue in.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. So, do you work? You work with all sorts of businesses as well. I mean,
Correct.
obviously, you need to. What happens when? Do you ever screw up?
We do.
It's funny. Every time I get my hair cut, the stylist will look and put the mirror behind your head and stuff like that and go, "Oh, how do you like it?" And I'm like, "What are you going to do if I say it sucks?" Okay, there's not a whole lot to do. My hair now is awful. It's on the floor. It's been swept away. I mean, what happens? And I've ordered through Teleflora when I've had to. Actually, it was when my stepmother died in Florida. Had ordered an arrangement to be sent, and it came, and it was it was brown. It was yucky. It was gross. And I mean, I would turn around and I would put that squarely on the florist that was there, or that it was in the truck too long, or whatever it may have been.
Right.
But what happens, and what should somebody do if they're not happy with something?
We make it right. Depending on the situation, first we try to figure out what type of environment it was put in. Was the house too hot? Did they sit it on a radiator?
Sure.
We've had those instances, but we will replace it. It may not be immediate gratification if you call it 5 o'clock, but we try to make it right.
Well, that's always good to hear. And you've got how many employees? You said you had 2 designers.
2. At any given time, high season can be anywhere from 8
What
to
is
11.
high season for a florist?
Would be from Thanksgiving to Christmas, or a few days before Thanksgiving to Christmas. Then we go into about a 30-day lull, and then Valentine's Day happens.
Okay.
And to the surprise of many men, it's still on the 14th of February every year. You ever want to be entertained, come by the shop about 7 o'clock on Valentine's night. They're lined out the door.
That's such an amateur move. I learned that way back in high school. And don't go. My thing is, you don't go with the roses because they're almost expected.
Right.
Go with something unique that's going to be memorable onto that. I mean, every girl in town is getting a dozen roses.
Right.
That was always my thought.
Yeah. We a couple years ago we teamed up with Kilwins and did a small box of fudge with a dozen roses, and then Sweetheart Patisserie, we teamed up with them and did little pedophores. So just try to give that extra little add-on, like you really thought about that.
No, I agree. I mean, you partner with some good people. Sweethearts is nice. I try to avoid it like the plague. Want to go to Sweethearts? No, I don't. I don't need to. Nor do I need to go to Rocco's Pizza or any of these other places.
We do. We try to pick a small business. The small businesses don't stick together. We have to rely on each other.
It's part of why we're doing the series, and it's highlighting. I don't want to talk to anybody in the mall. I don't want to talk to anybody from Westfield or from Best Buy or whatnot. I realize they're businesses in town. I realize they employ local people and they're valuable assets. Business really does begin on Main Street.
It does.
And Main Street could be Bay Ridge Road, or it could be Main Street, or it could be Maryland Avenue or Annapolis Street. It doesn't really matter. And we do need to stick together, and we do need to spend our money locally as consumers.
Right.
I would much rather turn around and be able to give you $100 for an arrangement than I would sending it down to some.
Well, there's a thing that if you Google and if you don't watch the URL that pops up, it'll be what we call clearinghouse, and it'll appear to be us. Because we'll have people say, we're looking at this on your website. We don't even do that product. And we'll say, look at the URL. And they're like, oh, my goodness, that isn't you. That's XYZ.
That's a shame. That's a shame that exists and is that Google allows that to proliferate.
Right.
But, I guess it's part of the cost of doing business, if you will.
Right.
Another big thing about local businesses is that they obviously are part of the community and that they're here day in and day out. The other nature of the business is giving back to the community, and you guys have done that. And just recently, I want to talk a little bit about the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse. And the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse, for those that don't know, you should go back and listen to the episode we did with John Potvin out in the lighthouse. But the lighthouse is in dire need of some help. It's got some rusty beams, and beams is not the right word, but underneath that are running the risk of the lighthouse collapsing.
Correct.
That need to be fixed. And there are people out there pretty much year-round volunteering their time to restore the wood, make sure the wood is there, and the interior is all restored to where it is. And the Annapolis Maritime Museum runs tours out there during the season. And when people see the price on the tours, they tend to go, oh my God, it's $80 or whatever it may be. And I've always said that is the most worthwhile $80 you're ever going to spend.
Uh-huh.
You're going to get out there to see an 1890, 1880 lighthouse restored to the way it used to be.
Right.
And very few people get a chance to do that. I mean, they only take 10 or 12 people out, I think, at a time. But recently, there was a fundraiser held at the Naval Academy Stadium. You guys raised like $34,000 to do this. Now, the total cost of this project is
It's with the beams, the girders, the support,
right,
whatever we want to name that, and the privy. That's
right. I was just reading
that decided to join the party. I think we're upwards to about $300,000.
Okay. But you spearheaded this event at the stadium, which I attended. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. And you had the Eastport Oyster Boys, which was the absolute perfect band to be playing for the event. You had some wonderful food by Bo Brooks, who was one of the caterers at the Naval Academy. And you had an appeal, and it was wonderful. You had an anonymous donor that had matched some big bucks, which was great. Plenty of auction things, and it was wonderful to see all the local communities getting together. And you did a hell of a job wrangling those rats to...
We did know the community was so supportive. The majority of the businesses we approached, once we explained what our cause was, and it was a real cause, they stepped up to the plate. We even went outside the perimeters of Annapolis for donations, and there were businesses outside that stepped up for us.
Well, it is. The Thomas Point Lighthouse is one of the most, it's, if you needed an icon for Maryland that wasn't our, black, white, gold, and red flag, that's pretty much it.
Correct.
That, perhaps the Bay Bridge, but the Thomas Point Lighthouse is instantly recognizable as a screw pile lighthouse here on the bay.
Right.
And personally, I'd like to say thank you for your efforts on that.
Oh, we had a blast.
Are you planning one for next year?
We are.
Are you?
About this. Yes, I am. I can't. Punishment, bring it on. No, it's going to. Hopefully, our inaugural year was from the people we've talked about to have said it was an amazing inaugural year. We did far better than most people do in their first year.
Well, my thing I loved it was a casual night. You didn't have to get all fancy dressed. I mean, there were people dressed like 1800 lightkeepers. There were people dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. Some people had on a sport coat and for the gentlemen, and it was just a wonderful evening. And that was put together pretty quickly.
It was. We did it in a little over 90 days.
Fantastic. Well, there goes your event planning background.
There goes my event planning background. I made the mistake of sitting next to John Potvin in a meeting once. I said, well, how hard can it be? We'll have a party. No, we actually sold out, and we had people begging us for tickets the week of.
Should have scalped.
We should have. We would have made more money. No.
What's on deck for Gateway? Do you have any plans for growth? Are you doing events not events for customers, but does the store?
We're starting to step outside of our comfort zone, and realizing that a floral shop is a dying art. We're trying to intrigue people to come in a little bit. We're going to start the first part of December, leave a letter for Santa, and your child will get a response. But we're also, we're looking at the big picture ahead of
why is it a dying art? I've got to think. This is one of the things that I've got to think that there's certainly not a need for.
Right.
There is certainly always going to be a use for it, whether it be corporate, whether it be a funeral or a wedding or a boutonniere for a prom or whatever it may be.
It's the wire services that there'll always be florists. They might be in a warehouse pumping out mass production, but the little storefronts so you can walk in and pick something up, they're becoming fewer and fewer.
The day I've got to buy flowers from a mass-produced warehouse is the day I'm not going to buy flowers. I mean, that's ridiculous. I think everybody has a florist, needs to support your local florist. I think, and that doesn't matter whether you're here in Annapolis or whether you're in Minot, North Dakota. Right. There is a local florist that is employing local people, that's employing designers.
Right.
That are making something very special for you. I mean, you're craftsmen, you're artists, you're a little bit of everything that put it together. And flowers, like any art, whether it be music or visual or pottery or whatever it is, just enhance what we have. I said, initially when we started, I mean, walking into your store is I guess quite literally a breath of fresh air because it's so amazing. I remember when the Flowers by James closed on State Circle. Mm-hmm. They had a pop-up shop a pop-up shop opened up there probably 2 years after they had vacated. You could still smell the traces of the flowers. And it's a good smell. It's a happy smell. It's a smell that anybody can get behind.
Right. One thing I would encourage people to do, and you used your Florida example, if you don't want to call a florist directly, try not to use the services on the computers. What we do, if you order flowers and you want them in Naples, Florida, we'll take your order, but we don't just put it through the computer. We get on the phone with that florist. And we explain our customers' needs. That does make us unique.
And you guys have, I'm assuming then at that point that you probably in certain markets have relationships with other florists.
Right.
Maybe it's that florist in Naples that you've worked with before and they kind of get you and what you do.
Right. We have preferred florists in almost every area. We also have little red flags of don't ever use again. But that's what does make us unique. I'm not just going to put it through the computer. I'm going to get on the phone.
Do you use red flags on your customers too?
Yes, you have two.
How am I doing?
You have two flags. No.
Look, it was only one check I bounced. All right. I came in.
No, each customer is as special as the last.
Well, I will say that, just from a transaction point of view, you guys make it real easy. It's like, hey, this is me. It says, okay, you want us to use a credit card ending in 123? Yep. Okay, is it going to? Yep. Okay, I said, yep, you can leave it on the front door. Okay.
Yeah, and we have some clients that I'm very, very proud of, and we protect their privacy. And I would never not protect their privacy because of who they are.
Teresa Williams, you're part of the fabric of Annapolis. I think, I hope that you're totally wrong about this dying breed of flower shops, and I do encourage everybody that's listening to this to let's make her a liar. Let's go out to let's go on down to
prove me wrong.
Let's go on down to Gateway Florist and do it. And you guys do have very convenient hours too. You are open 6 days a week.
We were closed Saturdays over the summer because we found that was dead. And then between holidays, we're still open on Saturdays, but we're open for appointments, for weddings, other events. We're there if you need us to be.
Right. Quick delivery. They don't like to do it, but they can do it at the end of the day. They may groan and moan about it, but it's...
So when John knocks on your door with flowers...
If they can do it, you will. And that's the one thing. I mean, I get it. I call at 4 o'clock and it's like, yeah, there's no way. I get that. Everybody's always been, yes, if we possibly can do it, we can do it. And you've never been one to disappoint.
No, we look at the situation. Something could happen where somebody needs something, and we're very compassionate to that.
Hey, here's a quick question for you. See, I don't get flowers too much, but I got them once, and you know who delivered them for me?
Who?
The alderman for Ward 6, DeJuan Gay, who used to work for you.
He's still, when he's not doing his political thing, I still wrestle him in.
But do you tip a floral delivery driver? I mean, everyone always talks about who do you tip. I mean, the garbage man, the mailman, and all nine yards.
Our drivers probably maybe 10% of the time get tips.
Okay.
Because I think some of that's also, it's an unexpected thing. I think they tend more to get tipped if somebody's expecting something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So it's sort of a customer's choice. It's not something where they're walking away and spitting into your food.
Right.
Because you didn't by any means.
Yeah.
So it's, and I imagine they're not making the $3.35 an hour or whatever.
Right.
Living off of the tips of delivering flowers.
Right. Now, we did have one delivery guy who he delivered to an elderly woman, and he came back laughing hysterically. He had gotten tipped in a stack of old CDs. He's like, look at some of this music. I mean, it was like Patti Smith, Frank Sinatra.
One of the better tips you can get.
And he did like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Teresa Williams, how do we get a hold of you online? I know we don't want to order online necessarily.
No, you try to avoid that because you will save fees too, and we can put more into the flowers. Right. It's www.gatewayflorist.us.
.us. You fancy there.
Yeah.
Again, 914 Bay Bridge Road, right next to, a couple doors down from what used to be the Main Ingredient, now called Main and Market.
Correct.
Across from Caliente Grill and Faucets. Yep, right there in that little shopping center. Plenty of free parking there. If you want to get onto the Academy Florist, that is also the sister.
Yes.
And that is at King George or Prince George and College?
260 King George.
Okay, King George. I get the kings and the princesses confused.
Right. It's the only pretty colorful building.
It is. It looks. If a building was a flower arrangement, it would be that one.
They tell me it's the most painted building.
I would imagine it's got a lot. That's all tile work though, isn't it? At the trims and whatnot. Really neat little building there, right at the wall at the base of the Naval Academy. A couple free parking spots out front.
Couple free if you're coming in by flowers.
And, yeah. Okay. Touche. Good.
Well, we had an incident during the boat show. My daughter was working down there and somebody pulled in and she thought they were just getting their stuff together. And she looked out like 3 minutes later and the car was there and there was no person there. She's like, really? A park and run. So she waited and waited and waited. About 20 minutes later, this young kid, who I assume is probably a runner for one of the vendors at the boat show, comes back with arms full of flowers from another florist and gets in his car.
Oh.
We think he had gone up to the circle.
Oh, right. Oh, my word.
We're like, no, that's not how this works.
Oh. Should have let the air out of the tires. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, we call them park and runs.
Fantastic. Teresa Williams, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And anybody who's listening needs a flower, has a loved one, has somebody getting married, got a kid going to the prom, this is the place to go. Gatewayflorist.us.
Right.
Thanks for listening to this special podcast for Annapolis. Please be sure to visit Annapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinions. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you your local news direct to your phone or tablet every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Subscribe on iTunes or Google Play.